Meet the candidates for Madison School Board. This morning on For the Record. Good morning, I'm Neil Heinen. The events of the past year, particularly the heightened attention being paid to the achievement gap and the hiring of a new superintendent, have made the job of Madison School Board member among the most dynamic in public service today. The people we elect Tuesday will go a long way in determining what gets done and how it gets done over the next few critical years in the history of Madison Public Schools. There are 3 seats on the ballot. Because third-place finisher Ananda Morelli announced publicly she would not wage a write-in campaign for the seat 5 after first-place finisher Sarah Mansky withdrew from the race, we decided it was in the best interest of this program not to invite T.J. Mertz, who's essentially now unopposed. But I welcome to For the Record this morning incumbent James Howard, the current president of the Madison School Board, and the challenger for seat 4, Greg Packnett, and the 2 candidates for seat 5, Dean Lamas and Wayne Strong. Thank you all very much for joining me this morning. I want to start just by way of introduction, if you would each, just take maybe 30, 45 seconds and just give 2, 3 reasons why the citizens of Madison should, in your case, re-elect you, James, and elect you to the Madison School Board.
Well, first of all, thanks for having us here today. And I think that one of the main reasons why I should be elected to or re-elected to the Board of Education is because of my experience. We're hitting a very crucial time in the education of our children here in Madison. We have some very important initiatives on the table. We have 2 new board members coming on the board, so we'll have some newness. They'll have to get up to speed. And we also have a new superintendent coming to the district. That's a lot of change for a district that has a lot of ongoing initiatives. So I think it's important to keep some historical knowledge in the district, and being the present school board president, I think it's important that I continue those initiatives moving forward.
Thank you. Greg Packnett, what do you bring to the table here?
Well, I am a graduate of the Madison Public Schools. I graduated from La Follette in '99, and I think that brings a different perspective to the board. I'm running to protect the public schools and make them stronger, to bring more resources in so that more students get the opportunities I had to succeed.
Okay, thank you very much. Dean, what are the reasons people should elect you?
It's pronounced Loomis.
Thank you.
It's a good Greek name. I don't think there's anything more important than the education of our children for a society to move forward, particularly to develop the skills they need to be able to succeed in the 21st century. This community is insisting that schools change and do better, and we're going to have to give them the tools they really need to do that. And I believe for working for years of people that have been struggling to overcome obstacles to succeed, that I know the strategies and the policies to be able to do that. So that's my main concern.
Thank you very much. And Wayne?
I'm running because I have 3 visions for this district. One is really, I think we're in a prime situation right now to really tackle the achievement gap. I have 3 essential issues that I want to bring forward in terms of the plans that I have to go in that direction. First, safe schools. We've got to make sure that our schools are safe. Last year we lost over 1,000 students to open enrollment because families left because they didn't feel that our schools were safe. I have a plan in place that will help increase our school safety. Secondly, we've got to do something about the suspension rates. During the 2010-2011 academic school year, we suspended African American students at a rate of nearly 25%. During that same year, academic year, 102 students, African American students, were recommended for expulsion. We've got to bring those numbers down in order to increase our graduation rates, which right now are about 50.1% for African American students. So these are the things that are going to go a long way in terms of helping us overcome the achievement gap.
Thank you. There was an op-ed piece in the Wisconsin State Journal last week from the superintendent of schools in Kettle Moraine. I don't know if you saw it or not, but she was talking about reform efforts in that district. And we'll set aside some of the issues there because they're probably different than what the issues that we're facing here. But one of the things she said that intrigued me was that the support she felt from the school board was particularly helpful in giving her the sort of the freedom to do some of the things that she thought were really working well. And I guess it gets to this fundamental relationship, Greg, I'll start with you, between a school board member and the superintendent. How do you define that relationship? between yourself and the rest of the board and the superintendent, and how important is it to share similar philosophies and goals?
Well, I think the board's responsibility is to set the policy, and the administration's responsibility is to carry it out. So, you know, I wouldn't want to be the kind of member who would try to micromanage. I think that just gets in the way. As far as, you know, working with the rest of the board, you know, there's plenty where we agree and then plenty where, you know, different people disagree, and I think that it's important to work with, you know, your fellow board members on areas where there's agreement and expand on that. And, you know, I think that there's been obviously a lot of contentious issues in politics in Wisconsin, on the school board particularly. And I think a lot of people, you know, they don't like political argument, dispute. But I think, you know, if we're arguing, that's healthy. It's a question of, are we focusing on the issues? Are we, you know, taking, you know, people seriously? You know, are we, you know, not making things personal?
Okay.
You know, I think political disagreement, disputes, that's just how we resolve disagreements.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Dean, describe your perspective of the role and the relationship.
I work for a board of directors. I run a fairly substantial housing program, and there's several key things that are important. Communication and respect. I never withhold anything bad that the board should be aware of. It's important that they understand the complexity of my housing program. I work with homeless, mentally ill people, providing permanent housing. It's difficult to be able to do that and do it properly, and the board has to get all the information they need so that they can support me in the way that I need to do my work, particularly with my staff. Respect and communication is vital with not only the board, but then back to the staff. School boards have to be the conduit for that type of communication to happen between the administration and the lead staff. Okay. It's essential.
Okay. Wayne, your philosophy on this?
I think it has to be communication, clearly, to start with, and I also think that there has to be a shared vision. I mean, there has to be a shared vision between what the superintendent wants for the district and what we as a board want for the district, and that has to be consistent. And accountability up and down the line. You know, we've got to make sure that we're holding folks accountable, that we're doing the things that we're doing, that we should be doing to make this district the best district it can be for all of our students. And those are the most critical aspects, I think, of the accountability issue in terms of what we're doing to make sure that we're moving the district in the right direction.
Thank you. And James, you've had a relationship already with a superintendent. Now there's another one here. Has your philosophy changed at all?
Not at all. You know, actually working with Dan Nerad was my first experience as board president and working with a superintendent. And I will tell you that it's very important to have a very good working relationship. One of the good things about Dan Nerad was that he liked to get in the office at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I did too. And so by 6 o'clock, we had communicated everything before everyone else woke up. So it's very important that board members, board presidents communicate often with the superintendent. And it's very important that you can get on the same page. You will have areas of disagreement. That goes without saying. But the point is, can you work together? Can you work out your disagreements and move the district forward? And I'm proud to say that over the last 2 years, when you look at the contentious issues that we've had, that we've been able to do that.
You get a lot done between 5 and 6 in the morning.
Yes, indeed.
We're going to focus on the achievement gap when we get back right after this.
Can't get at the achievement gap. We can't get unless parents trust the teachers, unless the teachers trust the administration, unless the board trusts the administration. As a community, trust has been broken.
That's T.J. Mertz, who, as I mentioned earlier, is the presumed winner of his race since Sarah Mansky dropped out. Sarah's name will be on the ballot, but she is not running anymore. The candidates for the other 2 seats are with me, and I'm going to start with Dean Loomis. On your views on the achievement gap, and I mean, you could talk forever on this, but just if you could hit the pieces that are most important to you in defining the achievement gap and how we close it.
Well, it's essential to address this quickly, and we cannot wait any longer. The plan that was developed is a good one, but we will only be able to put about this much into it, and it's this big. Community partnerships, I think, is essential, and it's imperative in order for us to be able to develop that and hit all the areas that we know will succeed.
Are we talking about the right things in the achievement gap, Wayne?
I think we've really got to focus on the suspension rates. I think that, clearly you can't close a gap with a group of students who are not in school. And when any given point in time during the academic school year, you've got nearly a quarter of your students that are out for academic suspension, that is not going to help us close the gap. We've got to look at strategies to help keep kids in the classroom. I like the YWCA's restorative justice model because that's one way that helps keep our kids in school. We know that there's a school to prison pipeline. Our kids that are not making it to school are ending up in our juvenile justice and ultimately our criminal justice system. We've got to stop that school to prison pipeline. The way to do it is to, I believe, first and foremost, attack that suspension rate.
Okay. Okay. James, in a way, you've got a record to defend here. I mean, are we approaching this the right way? We
have so many initiatives underway right now to deal with the achievement gap. One initiative that's new, we heard about our community partners, our new mental health task force. We know that we have a lot of children in our schools that have mental health challenges, and so we've started a partnership with Dane County because that's where the services are. And but one of the most important aspects of the achievement gap that we have to understand is that we have to change this conversation around poverty, and so because regardless if a kid is poor, we have to still educate those kids. And so we have to do a better job of talking about, we tend to talk a lot about poverty and poor parenting. We can agree that those things exist, but that's not an excuse for not educating kids, and we have to change that conversation.
Okay, thank you. And what would you add to this, Greg, in terms of the achievement gap?
Well, I think poverty is important to bring up in the achievement gap, not as an excuse for not doing something. A lot of time that's what it gets left at, but we need to focus on the inequalities that happen outside of the classroom and give kids more opportunities to learn outside of the classroom, after school and summer programs. And community partnerships are a good way to achieve that. Mayor Soglin has a plan to kind of expand that. And that's what I want to do, help use the schools as much as we can to address the inequalities that are happening outside of the school building, which isn't to say, I think Wayne's right that a lot of what is causing the achievement gap is happening inside the classrooms, but it's not all of it, and we need to address the whole problem.
Okay. I want to get to your views on the relationship between the school board and teachers, okay? Wayne, I want to know how you balance the need to support and celebrate our teachers for the roles that they play in our children's lives, but also kind of with the pragmatic realities of a sometimes contentious labor relationship. How do we balance those?
Well, I think, obviously great schools start with great teachers, and I think that we've got some really good teachers in this district, and I think we need to give them the resources that they need to provide the level of educational opportunities for all of our students to be successful. I think we've got to really come to the table with kind of an open mind and about how we want this district to go forward, and so if we're doing that and we're putting our priorities in place in terms of putting our students, making sure that their needs are met, because they're the reasons why we teach, they're the reasons why we're running for school board. Let's make sure that the needs of the students are addressed. And I think that if we're doing those things that are going to address the needs of our students and make our students better, make all of our, increase our achievement for all of our students, that's going to make the whole district better. So it's a win-win situation by us working together with the teachers to make sure that what we're doing is serving the best needs of all of our students.
Okay. James, can we do a better job here?
Well, let's make no mistake about it, that Act 10 was a terrible blow to teachers' morale. The ability to not be able to collective bargain and to have your voice in the conversation, that was a terrible blow for teachers. And we know that our teachers are committed and very passionate. And by the school board coming to the table, negotiating a contract, and letting them know that we value their opinion, and we value who they are as teachers, we feel that, and hopefully that we're able to help them in the morale area. But the Act 10 and a lot of the legislation that's coming forward today is really harmful to teachers. At least that's the way they feel. And the board is working very hard to let teachers know that we value them. And it was important for us to come forward and have negotiations with our teachers, and we've done that.
Greg Pecknett, do you have a vision in your head for how you balance those things?
Well, I think that Scott Walker and Act 10, they really taking away collective bargaining kind of took away the main tool for kind of resolving these disagreements when they arise. I think that, you know, by and large, teachers should be partners in education and education reform. But you know, when the board disagrees with what the teachers want, collective bargaining was a process for sorting that out. And now I think instead of, you know, bringing all these issues to the bargaining table, you know, we have to kind of settle it in, like, you know, loud public disputes. And I think that is the main cost that Act 10 has brought.
And that's where we are moving forward, right? How do we do that, Dean Loomis?
Our teachers are essential to be able to do anything in our school district. I believe in democracy, and by cutting out the most essential staff in your school system out of the conversation was the absolute wrong thing to do. Nobody likes working in a top-down system where decisions are made that way. Now, this community is going to have to insist on fully funding our schools. The cuts that have gone down for the last 15 years has undermined the success of our teachers in the classroom, along with all the imposed new regulations that we're going to have to apply, including the Common Core standards starting next year, all kinds of new instructional curriculum activities that have to go on. Teachers are being asked to do more and more and more, and yet somehow people are pointing at them and saying, you're the problem. They're not the problem. They're the people who are going to solve the problem. We have to support our teachers much stronger and their support staff.
Okay, we're going to continue our conversation with the candidates for Madison School Board right after this. I'm back with the candidates for the 2 contested seats for school board in Tuesday's election, and you're all doing a great job with a very difficult task of keeping your answers short. I appreciate it. I'm going to try to get 2 more questions in. The first speaks to your views of leadership. I'm going to start with you, James. In terms of new strategies for the school district, innovative strategies, we know they're out there around the country, they're best practices. Where does the leadership come from for testing those strategies? From you, from the administration, from the community?
Well, I think it's combined. I think that for me, the leadership, the first thing we had to do to make sure that we had a proper leadership is to make sure we had the proper person at the helm. And I think it's important for people to understand and remember that school board members are not the experts in terms of things like curriculum and how you direct the district to be successful. That really has to come from the superintendent. We feel that we have done the job with appointing the person that will lead us. We have a lot of curriculum changes coming with Common Core standards and a lot of mandates that we're going to have to abide by. And so we think we have the right person in charge, and we have the community partnerships in place. And so we're looking forward to April 1st when our new superintendent comes on board.
It's kind of the point I was trying to get to, actually, Greg, is maybe unrealistic expectations of school boards. But, you know, what is the role in terms of these new innovative changes?
Well, I think that one of the things that really encouraged me about Dr. Cheatham was when at the forum she said that, you know, she wants to do things kind of the opposite of how Rahm Emanuel did them. In particular, you know, instead of coming to the public, you know, you have a plan in mind and you try to sell the public on what you think they should do. Go to the public first, hear what they have to say, and kind of synthesize their best ideas into a plan. And I think that's how you lead, especially in a place like Madison. You know, we're very you know, cantankerous, and, you know, the old saw about, you know, put 5 liberals in a room and you come out with 7 opinions. And I think, you know, you have to involve the community because that's how you get buy-in from the community, and that's how you know, you can proceed.
But on a big change, Dean, would you feel comfortable proposing that? Would you expect the superintendent to propose that, or would you want some community support that the school board and the administration would rally around?
All 3.
Okay.
All 3. There has to be that partnership created from the community, from the administration, and the school board. And the school board's essential role is to be that conduit for that communication, to come in from the community and get to the administrators. Now that is essential in order to make progress, so that it's not top down, it's not something. What's encouraging about Dr. Cheatham is that she seemed really eager to get here, and I thought that was very encouraging, that because, yeah, we said start in the summer. No, I'll get here in April and start right now. And that is very encouraging. Someone who I think wanted to get out of Chicago as quickly as possible because of that top-down model that does not work. That will never work.
Okay. Wayne, your perspective on that?
I think that it's the collaboration is critical in terms of her wanting to get out into the community, meet with the various community stakeholders, meet with teachers, meet with parents, and working in conjunction with the board. I think that she's going to take this district on a path that's going to lead it to success.
The vision's got to come from the superintendent with the support of the board and the community.
Well, I think that vision between the board and the superintendent has to be a shared vision.
Okay.
I think that there has to be some consistency there, but I think that the leadership should come from the superintendent, and I also think that it's imperative that the board shares that vision, and that vision is shared community-wide. But more importantly, that there's buy-in from the community in terms of the shared vision, in terms of the direction we think this district needs to go.
Okay, let's wrap this up with just 30 minutes each. I'm going to start with you, Greg Packnett. What's gone overlooked in your estimation, either in this campaign or in the broader community discussion about our schools? What aren't we talking about?
Well, I think that support staff and in the classroom, educational assistants are a really vital part of helping the students. Teachers only have so much attention. Classroom teachers have only so much attention to devote to their students, and having extra assistance to help kids with special needs or kids that are English language learners, that helps them to not have to focus on the kids that are most demanding. They can give everyone their attention.
Okay, interesting example. Dean Loomis, what are we missing?
Making sure that our schools are welcoming facilities. That is a complaint we're hearing all around the community. Our schools, parents come in, they're not feeling welcomed enough. We have to change that atmosphere. That's a job of the administrators. We have to completely support our staff. Our staff is not feeling supported. We have to do a better job there.
Okay, Wayne, what are we missing?
Speaking of the staff, it's got to be more diverse. We've got to have a more culturally competent curriculum. We've got to have a culturally responsive teaching staff. These things are going to be critical for us to move the district forward.
Really good examples. Are we missing anything?
Without a doubt. I think the most important thing is that although we're focusing on the gap, and that seems to be really the focus of most conversations, we have to talk a lot about, or we should be talking about, how successful our district really is. We have some of the most successful students in the country and around the world that comes out of the Madison Metropolitan School District, and I think we don't spend enough time talking about our successes. And we really have to change that. Yeah, we're very focused on eliminating the gap, but we have to remember that we have some very important and very successful students also.
Thank you for doing a great job with a tough venue, admittedly tough venue. We'll be back to wrap it up in just a minute. My thanks to all the candidates for joining me today. Remember to vote this Tuesday, and we'll see you back here next week for another For the Record.